You slice into a wheel of soft cheese. It gives way like warm butter. The smell hits you first, sharp and alive, and you lift the piece toward your mouth. Now stop. On the Italian island of Sardinia, there is a cheese exactly like this one, except it is moving. The soft center is not soft because it has aged well. It is soft because it is full of living maggots, thousands of them, wriggling through the paste as you spread it on your bread. Its name is Casu Marzu, which in the Sardinian language means rotten cheese, and selling it can get you fined thousands of euros because the European Union has declared it illegal to trade. You did not misread that. There is a cheese so dangerous that a modern government banned its sale, and shepherds have been making it and eating it for something close to 1,000 years. How does a food become a crime? To understand Casu Marzu, you have to understand that for most of human history, the line between spoiled and delicious was not a scientific fact. It was a gamble, and cheese itself was born from that gamble. Think about what cheese actually is. You take milk, a liquid that goes bad within hours in a warm climate. Then you deliberately let it rot in a controlled way. You add bacteria. You add enzymes from the stomach lining of a young animal called rennet, which is the substance that makes milk separate into solid curds and watery whey. You let mold grow on the outside. Every single cheese you have ever eaten is a case of decay that humans learn to steer instead of fear. The food historian Paul Kinstedt, who wrote a deep study of cheese and civilization, argues that cheesemaking began not as a delicacy, but as survival. Milk was precious. Milk was also dangerous because most early adults could not digest raw lactose. By curdling and draining milk into cheese, ancient herders stripped out much of the lactose and locked the nutrition into a form that would last through winter. Cheese was a way to store summer inside a wheel. The archaeology backs this up in a way that is almost unbelievable. In what is now Poland, scientists studied clay fragments more than 7,000 years old, riddled with tiny holes like a modern sieve. Chemical traces of milk fat clung to the walls of those holes. They were strainers, used to separate curds from whey. That means humans were making early cheese in the Stone Age, before the wheel, before writing, before metal tools. So cheese is old, but Casu Marzu is a different kind of old. It belongs to a tradition of pastoral shepherds in the mountainous inland of Sardinia, a hard, dry landscape where people herded sheep and wasted absolutely nothing. Here is how it is made, and you may want to set down whatever you are eating. You start with pecorino, a firm sheep's milk cheese. Then you do the one thing every cheesemaker on earth is trained to prevent. You leave it out, and you let the cheese fly find it. The cheese fly is a real insect, Pyophila casei, and its common name is literally the cheese skipper. The female lays her eggs in the cracks of the wheel. The eggs hatch into larvae, and those larvae begin to eat. As the maggots digest the fat inside the cheese, they break it down into something soft, pungent, and weeping with liquid. That liquid has a name in Sardinian. They call it lagrima, which means tears. The cheese is crying, and that is the sign the shepherds wait for. A wheel of Casu Marzu can hold thousands of larvae, each one only a few millimeters long, each one turning firm pecorino into a creamy, ammonia-sharp paste that locals compare to an extremely aggressive gorgonzola that bites your tongue and stays there for hours. Picture the scene. A stone hut high in the Sardinian hills, generations ago. An old shepherd cuts into the wheel with a knife. The maggots, disturbed by the light, can leap. The cheese skipper larva can launch itself up to 15 centimeters into the air, which is why some eaters shield their eyes. The shepherd spreads the living cheese onto flat carousel bread, pours a glass of strong red wine, and shares it with the men who worked the flock. This was not a stunt. This was a delicacy of celebration, saved for weddings and feasts. a taste of wealth in a poor land. So why is it illegal? Here is where the story turns, and here is where it stops being simply charming. Those larvae are not guaranteed to die when you chew. If swallowed alive, some can survive the acid of your stomach. In rare cases, they may pass into the intestinal wall and cause a condition called pseudomyosis, where fly larvae temporarily live inside the human gut, sometimes causing nausea, cramping, and bleeding. Because the cheese is made through open, uncontrolled contamination, health authorities cannot certify it as safe. So under European Union hygiene law, Casu Marzu cannot be legally sold on the open market. Selling it can bring a fine of several hundred to several thousand euros. Now here is the twist you did not see coming. The ban did not kill the cheese, it made it a legend. Casu Marzu has been listed in the Guinness World Records as the most dangerous cheese in the world, and that reputation only made people want it more. Sardinians kept making it in their own homes, for their own tables, passing wheels quietly between families and friends. The region of Sardinia has even fought to protect Casu Marzu as a traditional local food, arguing that a recipe 1,000 years old is not a public menace, but a piece of cultural heritage. A food that predates the nation banning it. And think about what that really means. The very thing modern law calls contamination is the thing tradition calls flavor. We have spent the last century building a wall between food and rot, with refrigeration, pasteurization, and sell-by dates. Casu Marzu comes from the world before that wall, when a shepherd read a wheel of cheese the way you read a weather sky, judging by smell and softness, and the slow appearance of tears, whether it had become something wonderful or something deadly. You might think this is a strange, isolated madness. It is not. The impulse behind it is sitting in your kitchen right now. That blue vein in your Roquefort? That is Penicillium mold, the same family as the fungus we make antibiotics from, deliberately injected into the cheese. The pungent rind on a washed rind cheese is grown with bacteria closely related to the ones that make your feet smell. The tang in your yogurt, the fizz in your kombucha, the sourness in your sourdough, the depth in your soy sauce, the funk in aged fish sauce that the Romans themselves adored and called garum. Every one of these is controlled decay. The food writer Harold McGee, who explained the science of cooking to a generation, put it plainly. Much of what we treasure as flavor is the work of microbes eating our food before we do. Casu Marzu simply takes that truth to its most honest and most unsettling extreme. It does not hide the life inside the cheese. It shows it to you, moving, on the tip of your knife. So the next time you slice into a wheel of soft cheese and lift the piece toward your mouth, remember what you are really holding. Not a clean, safe, finished object. A living thing, mid-transformation, that generations of humans learned to trust with their eyes closed and their mouths open. The maggots are just the part they forgot to hide.